Christmas. Santa, magic. It's such a wonderful time of year. That is, until it isn't. Let's face it, moms, being the keeper of childhood Christmas magic is a lot. It's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of tantrums from the kids and from us. And it's a lot of obligations that we don't necessarily know how to say no to.
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay?
Okay.
Work is your new favorite.
Fine.
Time for an announcement. Okay, people, tomorrow morning, it is Santa's only Santa.
Oh my God!
So the thought of doing the whole charade over again this year can send a lot of us hiding under our blankets. I'm here to say fuck it to that. I love Christmas and have found ways to continue loving it as a single mom of 4. In this holiday series, I'll be joined by guests and experts who will share how they find balance through the holidays so they don't turn into the Grinch on the street. It can be the most wonderful time of the year for moms too. The secret? Learning when to say fuck it. Welcome everyone to this episode of Merry Fuck It Christmas. I'm so excited to share this series with you guys. I hope that it does well so we can do it every year. And for this very first episode, I have Ryann with me. Ryann, introduce yourself.
Merry fucking Christmas, everybody. So I am Ryann Watkin. I am a mom of 3 beautiful, amazing children and a wife. And I am the host of the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. And I am so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I was on Ryan's podcast. And if you guys haven't listened to that episode, by the time this episode comes out, if you haven't listened to that episode, like, what are you doing with your lives? Like, go listen to it.
Yes.
It was so much fun. And at the end of it, I was like, do you want to come on my podcast? Except it has to be Christmas because I'm doing this random Christmas series. And she's just like, yeah.
I was like, I've got some thoughts on Christmas. I could definitely do that.
Yeah. So I am a Christmas freak. Anybody who's not watching the video, I'm in my Christmas gear. We're recording this on September 18th, but I dug it out because I was like, I want to be properly dressed for this Christmas episode.
Yep. I love it.
But when you have kids, it becomes like a whole other ball game, right? It's one thing to be like a Christmas fanatic without kids. You have so much time and energy. You know, you're not as tired. So you can pour in all you want into Christmas. And then when you have kids, you kind of have to. I mean, you don't have to. There, are other people who don't really participate, don't want to, whatever. But the Santa thing and all the other stuff that goes into Christmas, and it kind of like starts to slowly steal the joy of Christmas for you as a person. Mm-hmm. So what has your experience been like with Christmas in general? Like, were you super into Christmas before you had kids?
So I would say I was like, 70% all in. Like, and my coworkers would always make fun of me because I was like, it's not Christmas yet. I would be like 2 weeks before Christmas. I'm like, it's the fucking 12 days of Christmas, people. It's not like the 2 months of Christmas. Like, it would drive me crazy that the radio started playing the music. So I am all in and was all in for like 2 weeks. And I've always been that way. So I'm still like that now. I'm like, we get 2 weeks, people. No more. Not a month, just 2 weeks. So I was always like, just like kind of into it when it was the time, but I was like, oh my God, it's too early. When it was too early, it was too early. But yes, it would be super fun and I love to decorate and I still love to decorate, but it was, it always felt like kind of easy and relaxing and fun to give and get presents. Of course, now it's a little bit different and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I think it's a fun time of year. It's cozy and the hot chocolate and just like the nostalgia of it, remembering like the, presents or silly things that you did like growing up. I love that whole like reflection piece too.
Yes. Yeah. Nostalgia is such a big piece of the holiday season. And, it makes me appreciate looking back at all my parents did for me over the years as a kid. And now being the parent and having that responsibility on my shoulders, like it makes me appreciate all that they did for my sister and I. So how do you handle the Santa factor in your household?
Yeah. So my kids are still little and they are, at the time that this airs, they're 3, 8, and 10, basically. And so, and my 10-year-old has showed no indication that she doesn't believe. She's like, Santa, Santa. And I remember like playing along for like one extra year. And I feel like it was around that like 9-10 mark where I was like, something's up here. And so I have a feeling that's what's going on with her, but we're not close enough now as we're recording this to like have that conversation. So maybe different at this point. But no, there's like no indication that it's like not real. However, I'm like, I told my husband, this was like a few years ago, I was like, why does Santa get to give the good present? We are giving the good present, and Santa's giving like
Santa
a
gets
puzzle,
all the credit,
or a pair of jammies, or like, I was like, we're going to give the good ones. And so we did that swap because growing up,
you did. So you're not letting Santa get the credit.
Santa
for
gets
like the big
credit.
gift.
No, we get credit for the big gift, and which is like so silly now that I'm saying it out loud, but I'm like, we get the credit. So yeah, they get a little gift from Santa. It's like a puzzle or like a pair of jammies or like something kind of silly. And whichever big gift we decide to do is from my husband and I. And I think that's just, I don't know. There's something about them putting their stock in this like imaginary like fat man. I just like, it like screams like patriarchy to me, and I'm like unraveling like patriarchy in my own life. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck the patriarchy. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of.
No, absolutely.
We need to coexist in a certain way. It's like there has to be some sort of mutual love. But like, I think the whole Santa thing has been really based on that. And it is kind of like such a down and dirty lie. So yeah, we haven't told them like explicitly there is no Santa, but I have a feeling they're not going to be that surprised because we haven't put that much stock in it.
Gotcha. Okay. So then do your kids get kind of like a little bit of FOMO when they talk to their friends, and they're like, for their friends, Santa brought them like, a pony or whatever, like like Santa brought the friend like this big thing, and they're like, but Santa only brought me pajamas. What the fuck?
Isn't that funny? We haven't had that come up that much yet, like this whole comparison thing. Maybe it's because for the majority of their lives they've homeschooled, and so they haven't had this like giant group of kids where they go back to, and like there's the kid getting like the Mercedes and whatever. I mean, not yet. I mean, we do live in South Florida, so we're not far off from that. But I know it's crazy. But so we haven't like had that social aspect of it. Like many of the people who we chose to be around were like by choice, and so they were all kind of on the same wavelength as us. So there's been none of that like compare type of a thing yet. Knock on wood. I mean, I'm sure it's coming, right?
Right.
They're also like getting older, so I feel like that will play into it. But when like if and when that happens too, it's like, okay, so that kid got whatever, the BMW, the pony, the helicopter, whatever it is. And you seem a little jealous, right? Because I'm like big on like, all right, feel your feelings. That you want to throw a pity party for yourself? Do it. You feel like shit about that? Okay, that feels shitty for you. I get it.
Right.
But like, I'm not about to go out and buy the thing or make them feel better because, I'm like, okay, feel your feelings and then move on. I don't want to like raise entitled kids either, which that might be a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. We haven't had too much of that
yet. Yeah. Santa's been a big piece of the puzzle for me and my household. Because I remember growing up and the magic of it all. Like that was so special to me as a kid. And so it was really important to me to just like create that magic for my kids. But it also is such a huge responsibility, especially like when you have multiple children. So like when my fourth child was born, she is a December baby. So, there was that. But so my oldest was 6 when she was born. So I had them all like really back to back. And, that Christmas, my oldest was in kindergarten, and they had an elf on the shelf in the classroom. And there were other kids who were talking about like their elves and stuff at home. And I didn't do the elf on the shelf as a kid, so I didn't do it with my kids. And she came home and she's just like, why don't we have an elf? Why hasn't an elf come to our house? And I was so tired and so like just burnt out and overwhelmed having a fourth newborn in the house that I had an honest conversation with my kindergartner. And I was like, honey, the elves aren't real. They're not real. Yeah. It's just a game that the parents play with their kids. You know, it's fun for them as a family to do that, but they're not real. And I don't have the energy to do it. So that's why we're not doing it in this household.
Yep.
The look on her face though, Ryan, I was like, oh my God, I just broke her heart into a million pieces and I felt terrible. And she was just like, well, could we still just get one, even if it is pretend, even if it isn't real? And I was like, okay, I feel so bad. So we ordered it on Amazon. And then when we were waiting for the package, I was thinking like, this is not in alignment with me and who I am. I like magic. I like doing this fun stuff. I'm just really tired right now because of the newborn. And so when the elf came, I forgot exactly how I did it. Oh, right. I made it so that she just like appeared in the house. So like there was no pack for my daughter. There was no package. There was no box. The elf was just like magically here one day. And I played it up. Like I was really surprised that, you know, the elf was in the house. And so I sort of like reversed the reality check that I had given my kindergartner. And so I was able to make it real for her again. Aww. And I'm so glad that I did that because we have had so much fun with Elf on the Shelf. It's actually become one of my favorite traditions.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that story about having that conversation with your kindergartner because like there's only so much you can do. And not to mention, it's the very last thing that you do before you go to bed. So you're laying in bed about to fall asleep and you go, fuck the fucking elf.
Yeah.
I got to go move the elf. Yes. We have a kindness elf. I'm an Enneagram 4. I'm like whatever Myers-Briggs is like the most off the wall type. I'm like the different person. Like I'm like the weird individual person, like sometimes to a fault. And so I go against the grain on like almost everything. And so we have an elf, but her name is Joy, and she's not like an elf on the shelf. She's a kindness elf. Okay. And you know, I make these silly notes and whatever, and just like these little like rhyming like poems and like about how to be kind. And there's like a word for the day, and the word's like kindness or sharing or whatever. But it's like the word's kindness, and then like my kids are like fighting and like punching each other. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe the kindness elf isn't doing her job, but I like to pretend that that she is, and that she's passing some sort of wisdom to my children, which clearly I cannot. to get them to stop fighting. So yeah. So we've gone like a little bit of a different route, but it is really fun. And when you said magic, so we have a fairy garden because I'm like super into magic too. And I love the magic. I'm just trying to make it maybe like more feminine and like more, I don't know, fairies are just like feminine to me. So we have this little fairy garden, and we'll, you know, put like little presents and little like Christmas trees and little things in there. And so that's like always a fun thing too. Like, oh, the fairy showed up and put a little new building in there. So it's like one of the things. I'm like, I'm getting excited now.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
One time, some mischievous sprites broke into our house and ate the last cupcake, while the kids were sleeping.
Yep. Yes,
I love playing around with all that stuff. Cause like, why not?
Good grief. So fun.
Yes. And I love the idea of your elf too. I love like whenever anybody like makes a tradition like their own, you know?
Yes.
We don't all have to do it the same way. It's okay.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And I think that's like one of the things. I mean, I joke that I'm like an individualist. Like, I think that's like the name of my Enneagram number. It's like the individualist or something. And I like joke about it, but it's true. Like, I think that we have been like trained and like kind of indoctrinated, so to speak, on like following the trend and like what are the kids doing and what are the other, and oh, it's the elf on the shelf, so we need to get one. But like really, we can make it our own. We can take something, make it an idea, do it different, do it the same, like do what feels good though, like not
Yeah.
just like doing it to do it. Like you, the elf came and you're like, oh, this is fun now, this feels good for me now, and so you
Yes.
did it, and you did it in your own way, and it wasn't pressured. I mean, there was a little bit of pressure from
There
your
was
daughter,
a little bit of pressure, but it was different. It really was not a decision that I made out of shame. You know, it was more just like it was more a wake up call to me of where I was out of alignment with myself.
yeah,
You know, so I was able to like use that as an alarm bell of like, wait, I totally would be down for this.
yeah,
I'm really in the thick of it postpartum right now.
right,
And I don't want to make this decision out of that because that's not who I am.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. So what other traditions do you have for your family over Christmas?
So, you know, one of the things that first came to mind when you were like, oh, we're going to talk about Merry Fuck It Christmas. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect because another tradition I have and this is overarching and broad, just for me, that like the Christmas cards need to be sent out. I'm putting need in quotes.
Yes.
And like the hot chocolate needs to be made, the stockings, like all the things that like are on like the to-do list.
The holiday checklist.
The holiday checklist,
Yes.
so to speak. There have been years where it's like, the cards aren't getting sent out this year. We're not going to do Christmas cards this year. And so that's like a tradition for me, is like really staying mindful of like, does this feel good? Do I have capacity for this year?
I love that your tradition
I have a child?
is doing an inventory of the traditions and seeing which ones you're going to say fuck it to. I'm so here for that.
Yes. Because it doesn't feel good if we're doing it just out of like the whole, if we're on autopilot and we're like, oh, the cards have to get sent out. And then there's like this push to like hustle and do the thing. It's like, who cares? Your Aunt Wanda is going to be judging you because you didn't send out a fucking Christmas card this year. While that may be true.
Fuck
like,
Aunt Wanda.
Fuck Aunt Wanda. I'm glad I chose that name because I feel like nobody has an Aunt Wanda. But
no, I don't actually know any Wandas.
Right? Me neither. Okay. I don't know why that was the name that came. But yeah, just so, I mean, I would just say personally for me, that would be it. And then another thing, like, it's all just like, it's kind of fun. Like sometimes we go to church, like that's kind of a tradition. And actually in the most recent years, we've been questioning that. Like, do we like this? Is this fun? Because for a couple of years, our baby was very young and it was like, is this really... I feel like the last time we went, I was like, let's go. I looked at my husband. I was like, come on, let's go. He's like, now? I'm like, yes, we're leaving. It's time. Like the baby was crying. I'm like nursing in the church. I'm like, let's go. Yeah. And so it's kind of evolving for us. And we're kind of in the point where it's like, we're creating those new traditions and deciding like, you know, clipping off what doesn't fit anymore for us. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's so important, is like to allow your traditions to shift and change and evolve with you and your family over time. Right. Because sometimes like it's a really hard season. Like I lost my father December 17th, 2021. That Christmas was really hard.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like sometimes you don't have the capacity for certain things. And it doesn't have to be like a huge life event like that where you lose someone really close to you. It could just be like life is fucking hard. You know, it could just be that like you've been depressed or you're just like in a season of stress or transition or change or whatever it is. But like, let it be okay. I love, you know, this idea of making a tradition to inventory your traditions. Yeah. You know, and to do it intentionally before you dive in. You know, do it before you're in the pool drowning.
Yes. Like December 1st is the time to start thinking about it, I would say.
See, I start decorating November 1st.
You do? Okay, see, you're okay. Got it.
I'm the problem. I'm willing to admit it. It's fine.
Like before Thanksgiving though? What?
Listen, okay, if I wait until after Thanksgiving, there's not enough time for me to get all of the decorating done and then be able to enjoy it because I go ham. I have like a whole separate section of my wardrobe that's Christmas. I do our bathroom. It's every area of the house. I have special shit for the kitchen. Like I'm swapping dishes out for Christmas. That shit takes time. Okay.
Gosh,
and it's
so
also in the middle of birthday season for my family because my kids their birthdays are October 8th through December 1st. So it's all in the middle of throwing all these goddamn birthday parties. So yes, I decorated for Halloween, Labor Day weekend, and I will decorate for Christmas on November 1st. And no one can tell me to do anything different because I'm single and I run my own life.
That's right. I get to do what the fuck I want.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, I'm with you. I'm here for that for sure. And like what the fuck I want is December 1st. And so maybe if you're listening, you're like somewhere in the middle between November 1st and December 1st, do an inventory. What do I want to do this year? What feels really, really good? What feels easy? You know, I think like we make it hard and we are used to like making things hard. I know I am. Like I'm a recovering perfectionist. I feel like if something like feels like gritty and hard, then it's like worth it. And I'm like doing a good job, but that's like actually not the reality of it. It's just like that force, like that feeling of like constriction or forcefulness that is familiar, but doesn't mean that it's like any more productive or valuable than something that feels like really easy and spacious and flowy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So, just because it feels familiar doesn't mean that you have to actually feel that all the time. Like you don't actually have to live there in that zone in order to like produce something. It can be easy. It can, and especially like when we're talking about the holidays, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, so if you get to the point where like you're so stressed that you just want to wish Christmas away every single year, do an inventory, please, because it can be fun you can still like create that magic for your kids with boundaries for like your own sanity and peace of mind so that you can enjoy it too.
Merry boundaried Christmas, everybody.
Yes, merry boundaried Christmas.
Because it's not just for our kids too, right? Like it's meant to be enjoyed by all. Like it's not just for them. So, and I think one of the things that you talk about so amazingly is like modeling, and you just embody it in your life, just modeling like for your kids what feels good and what it means to be a sovereign woman. And doing what makes you filled with joy. And so like when our kids are seeing us like up late or up early and like grumbling about Christmas, like Ebenezer Scrooge style, like that is not the point. And then we're modeling like that things have to be hard and that it's a grind. And then it's like, there's no enjoyment there. But I have to know, when do you take your Christmas stuff down? If you put it up November 1st, and when does it actually come down?
Okay, so my birthday is January 6th, and in Mexican tradition, because I'm half Mexican, my dad's side of the family is Mexican, we actually do Christmas. So like Christmas Day is more of like a pit stop. That's like you open a couple gifts. January 6th is the true like big Mexican Christmas holiday because that's when the wise men come to give their gifts.
Is that the Epiphany or that's something different?
I think that's something different.
So, okay, got it.
Yeah. So I leave them up until my birthday. And then after my birthday, sometime after my birthday, when I feel like it, I start to slowly take them down. It actually takes me a little bit too long some years to take stuff down. And I was talking to my sister about this, this last January, because both of us are just like dragging our heels, taking all of our Christmas shit down. And she was just like, I think it's just because like, it's so much fun to put it up, but it's a chore to put it away.
It is.
It feels more like a chore that I don't want to do.
Yes. Yep. It's so funny. And now I'm listening to your timeline, and my husband's birthday is December 4th. And he was like, whenever I was growing up, my mom would never put up the Christmas decorations until after my birthday. And so and then my oldest daughter was born on January 2nd, and we have to get them down by her birthday.
Oh my gosh.
So we're working with like a way shorter window. And so we're very much like hustle and grind it to get it up and down. But that feels
No,
good.
thank
And
you.
then like the dust like collects like on all this stuff. Like I'm like, it drives me crazy. I'm like, get the cleaning lady in here. Like take it all down. I can't wait for the cleaning lady to come and dust everything. Cause I feel like everything gets like dusty and grimy. Maybe that's like telling way too much about my cleanliness obsession. But yeah, that whole thing is an issue for me.
I just decorate for the birthdays around all of the holiday decor.
Really?
Like,
okay.
yes. So right now, are you a Stranger Things fan?
No, I've never watched it, but I know people love it.
Yes. So I'm obsessed. I love it. And one of my kids, actually multiple of my kids have had Stranger Things birthday party themes over the years. Anyways, so there's this scene, this iconic scene where one of the characters, she puts Christmas lights up in her living room, but like in a very haphazard, weird way, because she's using the lights to communicate with her son, who's in a different dimension, and he can communicate through the lights, which sounds really weird. And she puts an alphabet up on the wall so that way he can like communicate with her. Okay. But the Christmas lights are like spastic everywhere, all over her house, so she can try to figure out like how to save her son from this inner dimension. And so you can buy the decals of Joyce Byers' crappy letters for the alphabet on the internet. And so naturally I have that. So that's up in my living room right now. So every year for Halloween. And I love it. I love this decoration so much, which is why it gets like prime placement in my living room, because it works for both Halloween and Christmas. So I put the Stranger Things like display basically up in my living room Labor Day weekend, and it stays there until after my birthday. It's like the perfect decoration that just goes through this whole wonderful season that I love so much.
It's called Two Birds, One Stone. And nothing sounds crazy to me because we just started watching Outlander. I don't know.
I love Outlander.
That. Oh my God. And so I'm like, oh, another dimension. Yep. Got it. Like,
you're like that tracks.
Tracks. Totally with you. Yep.
Oh my God, that's so good. So are there any like areas with traditions where you and your husband like weren't on the same page when you got married, as far as like, because different families have different traditions, and you know, you might come in with like this set and he comes in with this set, but you can't do like both sets because it's too much. So you have to figure out how to compromise.
Yeah, our biggest kind of hurdle was like, how many Christmases do we do? Like, how many houses do we jump around to?
That's a big one for most families.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to see the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, where do we go on Christmas Eve? Where do we go on Christmas Day?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we travel over to my parents' house because they're 2 hours away? Do we stay here because his family's out here? So that has been our biggest thing. But then also, oh my gosh, it's so funny. We were the first ones in his family to have kids. And so we got these Sesame Street, like, what are the things called that you hang on the Christmas tree? I'm so tired.
Oh, the ornaments?
Ornaments. Thank you. That word. We got these hand-me-down Sesame Street ornaments, and they're like made out of ceramic, and so they're breakable. And we've never hung them up because they're so sacred to my husband. I can't. It's so funny. He's like, we can't hang those up. We've got little kids. They might break them. But and then his sisters are like, you got the Sesame Street ornaments.
Okay, so the Sesame Street ornaments are like a big deal.
They are a thing. They've got all the characters, and they're in little, the mittens and the hats and the Christmas gear, and they're really like, they're super cute. But I think they remember them from growing up, and they're like super sentimental in their family apparently. And so we got the ornaments, and that was a big deal. But we, like, tradition wise, his mom, which I love, she's always been like, Nate, that's my husband's name, Nate, you get to start your own traditions. And so we have had that, like, not that we need a permission slip, but we've kind of had the permission slip from his mom to like kind of like create your own fun, like create your own magic, like do something new. And so I think we went into it when we got married and when we started having kids of like, how do we make this ours? And so neither of us were like super married, I don't think, to like anything. I always did love like going out for like a really fancy dinner Christmas Eve night. That was just like one of the things that my family did, like in a certain season in our lives. And so I loved that. And we did that for like 1 year when our oldest was, I think she was 1. She was turning 1. And then once we had more than one kid, we're like, we can't go out for like a nice meal. We can barely go to Chipotle without like beans and rice being thrown at the wall or whatever. So that just that just like worked its way through and we didn't even have to worry about it. So yeah, we didn't have too much of that. We like kind of got to start with a blank slate, which I think was great.
That is great. But it really is. That's perfect because, then you don't start, you're married and your small family holidays together, like just butting your heads against each other. Totally. That's really nice. So how do you decide, the logistics part of like, okay, where are we spending, Christmas Eve with, and how are we seeing the grandparents and everything? Because that's such a huge stress for, I think, everybody, is that piece of the rest of the family that wants to see the kids, but also it's kind of very much like okay, but I know you want to see the kids, but they're young and it's hard. It's hard to take them, especially when they're younger. Like it's hard to take them to places and they're tired. They want to go to sleep by the time we're all ready to open presents. And I don't want to deal with her being grouchy and, learning to set those boundaries around something big like Christmas. It's really hard for a lot of people because they're just worried about, their moms and mother-in-laws getting pissed off at them.
Yes, they are. Luckily, I don't care if my mom or my mother-in-law is pissed at me.
Yes.
So there's that. Actually, I prefer
you're free to feel your feelings. That's fine.
That's right. Tell me again how pissed off you are. No, I'm just kidding. No, it doesn't. So there's that. That's helpful to have. And really what that is, like I'm joking about it, but it's really like, I think I've set some pretty clear boundaries. Like I'm really mindful of where my energy can go because there's a limited supply of it at this juncture in my life, especially that my kids are like still kind of little. And I'm kind of coming out of that phase slowly and I can like feel it. But yeah, so honestly, saying no to most of the things, like including but not limited to family obligations, has been a key part of it. And some people might be like, saying no to family obligations, that's crazy. But again, like going back to the inventory piece, like, does it feel good? Does it feel spacious? Are you doing this to please Aunt Wanda? Are you doing this to please mom or dad or whoever it might be? Maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no, but like really just becoming aware of who's this for, and you can say no to it. If you have a partner and they're on a different page, I could see that would cause an issue. Luckily, my husband and I are like pretty on the same page with like, let's make this ours. Like, let's be intentional about the 5 of us. That's not to say that we don't, like, we still do host family here on Christmas Eve. And then we still do typically get together with my side of the family, like a week before or a week after. So we kind of like piece it together and like, okay, these days are really busy, like mainly Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Where else can we kind of like extend the holiday, like make it fun, have kind of like a second Christmas with my family? And how can we schedule that? So we like look at the calendar. It's like kind of basic, really, but it feels easy.
I'm so glad to hear that it feels easy to you. It's amazing. And, it's just a testament to anybody listening. It can sound just like this.
Yeah.
It can feel just like this. It actually can be this easy and this clear cut when you remove all of the mind drama bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
When I was a little girl, I remember going to church. We would go to church every Sunday, and it was in our church was like building their actual, building. And so we would go in a school cafeteria. And I remember I would go and I would like sing, and I loved the songs. And there were a few songs that I really loved. And I was probably 6 or 7. Like I was little. And I would sing, and it was just like, I just kind of like was expressing this joy. And one time in this cafeteria in church, this woman like is like looking at me, and you can tell she's just like, thinks I'm like totally cute. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're singing. And I found myself, first of all, like seeing her eyes of approval. I don't know who this lady was, but I thought like, oh, she's giving me approval and it's great. And so I felt myself like singing a little louder and being a little more like, oh, and like being very proud that I was getting this like external validation from this person I didn't know. And then to top that off, like the icing on the cake was like my mom looking at her, looking at me, and my mom kind of like beaming because she's saying that it says, I'm sure she thought that it says something about her as a mother, and she's so proud and this and that. And so I think we need to remember like who we're singing for. Like, are you singing for you? Are you singing because you feel joy and because it feels good and you want to express? Or are you singing because of these other outside looks of validation and acknowledgement? And it's one of the things that really like popped into my mind as I was like thinking about where this conversation would go, because it's such a great metaphor for what we do as girls in our lives. And when we become moms, it's no different. Like, we want our family to look at us and go like, oh, good girl. Oh, you're so great. And though that might feel good on the surface, if we dig down a few more layers of that, that validation, we can find that all we're looking for is like right in here. It's all us.
Yes. Yes. That's so beautiful. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we all, like, all women are socialized to be people pleasers. We're socialized to just search for that outside validation constantly. And I really feel like the holiday time like amplifies that so much, are you keeping up with what you're seeing on social media? Are you keeping up with what your mom expects you to do, what your mother-in-law expects you to do, what your husband expects you to do, what your kids expect you to do? There is a point where it's okay to disappoint your kids.
Yeah, totally. And I think of like Clark Griswold when he's like lighting up the house and they're doing the competition. It's like the whole thing, or like the Grinch too. In the Grinch, I think there was like some sort of Christmas light competition. I wonder if that's how your neighbors feel about you, Amanda. They got to keep up with you. You've already started.
I know. And it's not like that's not my intention at all. I am just over here like living in my happiness. That's all I'm doing.
Right. And it's authentic and it makes you happy and it brings you joy. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
I love being the crazy woman in the ugly Christmas sweater and tacky Christmas earrings. That's who I am. I love it so much. I love I have Christmas bedding for myself and my kids. Like, I love my Christmas sheets. I get so excited when I get to bring them out and make my bed in my special Christmas sheets. Like, all of that stuff brings me such immense amounts of joy. And when I go into my garage and I see that most of my storage is all Christmas shit, I'm like, yes, I'm doing life right.
Yeah. I love that, because I feel like so differently, but I feel so like that. I love that for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm like literally starting to sweat when you're like Christmas bedding and this and that. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. That's too much work. I can't. And
but this is why I start November 1st.
I mean, that makes sense.
When I say I need enough time to do all of the things, you're like, seriously.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's totally fine that like I am neurotic and you are normal, it's a good look for both of us.
That's right. It's a good look for us. And I'm neurotic about other things, just not the Christmas decorations, right? We all have our flavor, our preferred flavor of neuroses.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And I'm like, almost like, honestly, this conversation has like inspired me a little. I'm like, do I want Christmas bedding? I'm like asking myself the question, like, do I want that? I don't know yet. I like TBD, maybe. Yeah. But I like, maybe there's another way. Maybe I don't know, have to be like a Christmas
you spend
minimalist.
So much time in your bed,
Yes.
And when I come into my room, it makes me so happy to see my Christmas bedding, just like waiting for me
I
with
wish I
my
spent
Christmas
more time in
garland
my
that's
bed.
over my window, of course.
I love it. I love it. That's great.
But it's all the little things. And it turned out that all of the little things made me very happy. And so I've become this, neurotic psychopath with all of the Christmas shit. But I love it so much. And I love my Christmas coffee mugs. There's something special about having my Santa stuck in a chimney that says bottoms up, coffee mug. There's just something perfect about that.
Yeah. It's so cute.
And I also love that it's seasonal too, because my kids have like this love-hate relationship with me because I'm a really good cook and they enjoy my food, but I'm also like seasonal with my food. So I won't make soup or chili or chicken pot pie or any kind of casserole in like warm summer months, because for me, that's winter food.
Yeah.
And there are certain like summertime foods that I don't make in winter. And so we're in that season right now, mid-September, where I'm like, all right, this is the last time we're having Mediterranean pasta. Then you got to wait until spring. And my kids are like, no, why are you the way that you are?
Because casserole season is coming up, ladies. That's why.
Exactly. It's chicken pot pie season. That's why.
Right. That's so funny. You'd be totally screwed here in Florida. You'd be making all the salads and the Mediterranean pasta all year round. The other day I made a casserole. I kind of like in the middle of summer, like, no, there's no like soup, there's no casserole, but I did make like a chicken and rice something the other day, like one pot, whatever. And it was like super comfort food. I'm like, nothing like hot comfort food at the end of a hot ass day. We're all like sweating, like still like hot from our days. Yeah. We're just like eating this hot meal, like so hot. Yes. Yeah. And when we make hot chocolate on Christmas morning, it's rarely cold. I mean, maybe like brisk, but yes, it's hot. And, it's just, that is a tradition. Hot chocolate every Christmas morning. Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. I really had so much fun with this conversation. I will link to your podcast in the show notes in case anyone wants to listen to you. They absolutely should, because your podcast is amazing. I like to end every guest episode with a round of lightning questions. And I'm just realizing right now in this moment that I should have made a separate list for like Christmas specific questions. So I'm going to make up Christmas specific questions on the go. Improv. Are you ready?
Yes. And yes.
Okay. What was your favorite Christmas tradition as a kid?
Ooh, my favorite Christmas tradition as a kid. What did I love? I really liked, there were a few years when my brother and I were like close enough in age, because we're 10 years apart, where we'd go to midnight mass. And I just thought it was like so fun on Christmas Eve to stay up super late. And I think it started at 11, and like there were candles burning and it was like dark, and the music and that's like the first thing that came to my head. I just loved like the cool feeling of it all. It was like, it was so sacred.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Love that. What is your favorite Christmas treat?
Those little thumbprint cookies. They're like shortbread with like the jam on the inside. I was going through my recipes the other day and I'm like, I have 7 recipes for thumbprint cookies. Those are my favorite. I love them.
Nice. Yeah. What is your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, that's hard. Well, Home Alone. I mean, probably Home Alone.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. I mean, Elf is like a really close second. Actually, we just watched
also a classic.
Like, we did Christmas in July, like just because.
Oh, I do Christmas in July too.
Do you? Of course you do.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I've never met another person who does Christmas in July.
You know what? We do family movie night. That's one of our traditions, and we pick out of a cup so that nobody argues about the fucking movie that we're watching. So it's like we picked the movie out of a cup, and we picked out Elf. I don't know how it got in there I don't remember even putting it in. Yeah. But I was like, hey, Christmas in July, and so it really was like kind of happenstance. Yeah. But we went with it. We didn't do anything else other than watch the movie, and we just called it Christmas in July. I'm sure your Christmas in July is a lot more intricate, but ours was very basic.
So my Christmas in July, I will listen to Christmas music. We will watch Christmas movies all month long.
Yeah.
And I do very minor decorations in the living room, like probably just like a few throw pillows, maybe a couple nutcrackers type of a deal.
Okay.
And I do stockings for the kids
Cute.
for Christmas in July.
That's so fun.
It's a lot of fun. I started it during COVID, that horrible, horrible year, because, you know, I was like, we just need some fucking joy. This year sucks. I'm not waiting till December.
Is this real life? Somebody make Christmas happen. What the fuck is going on right now? Yes.
That was literally me. I was like, fuck it. We're doing Christmas in July. I don't care. And we all had so much fun. The kids were like, can we do this every year? I'm like, hell yeah.
I totally get that. I'm on board with that. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, hang on. I'm looking at my questions and thinking how I can make it into a Christmas question. I don't know. Okay, well, this next one is not a Christmas question, but it's just one of my normal lightning questions because it's just too good. So I've stole this one from the Low Life podcast because it's too good not to steal. If your belly button was an actual button, what would it do?
Oh my God.
Right?
That is so funny. If my belly button was an actual button, what would it do? Okay, it would be like a chill out button. Like if mommy's like a little frustrated and she's getting kind of grumpy, like my kids could just go up and push the button and I'd just be like, back to calm, mommy. It would be like a calming button. It'd be like the chill the fuck out button.
The chill the fuck out button.
I can't wait to hear all the other answers that you've gotten on that. That's really funny.
I'm actually going to do a compilation. So at the end of the year, I'm going to go back to all my guest episodes and just clip the answer for that question because I get so many different answers, which is why it is such a brilliant question. I love it so much.
Such a good question. I'm rethinking my lightning round questions now. That's really good. I love that.
Oh my gosh. And I thought of one as you were saying that. Oh, so are you pro Christmas cards or no Christmas cards?
Depends on the year. Like,
okay.
Which I kind of hinted to. I like if I have the bandwidth, I am so pro. And if I don't have the bandwidth, I'm just like let it go.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a guilty pleasure of mine. When I move, I love when I get other people's Christmas cards, the ones that were meant for the people who lived in the house before me.
Oh, yeah.
I love it so much. I put their picture cards up with all the other ones. Aww. And when I would do this when I was still married, and my husband came into the kitchen and he was looking at this family and he was studying it for a very long time, like really racking his brain. He's like, who are these people? Do we know them? And I was like, no,
we don't.
That's why it's so funny.
It's great. Oh my God. I love that. Oh my
I
God.
love it so much. And one year I got this, it was a Christmas letter because this was like an older woman where like she still sent like a Christmas letter, like a handwritten letter. It was the best letter I have ever gotten. Those people went on a fucking journey that year and she took us along for the ride. I still have it in one of my Christmas bins and I got another one the next year. It was the best thing ever.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. It wasn't like printed out. It was actually like written and personalized. Wow.
So it makes me feel like more of an asshole. But I was like, you know what? She wrote this for someone else to enjoy it. And I thoroughly enjoyed her Christmas letter.
I think that was great that you enjoyed it and that you kept it. I would have been like, toss it.
They were so entertaining, Ryan. They were so entertaining. I should dig them out and read them on the podcast because they were so, I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just like that level of a weirdo. But no, it makes me so happy to...
You should write her one back. You should write her a letter back.
I wanted to. Yes. I wanted to, but I was stopped. They're like, no, this is a felony. You're not supposed to be opening up people's mail. I'm like,
that's true,
no
but
fun.
Is it a felony when it's your address now, though? Like
that was my point. And
yeah,
like,
I don't.
But this isn't your name. I'm like, okay.
Okay, rule follower. Felony schmelony.
Right? And finally, what is one thing about Christmas or about like, what is one like holiday pressure that you would like to say fuck it to, that you've probably already said fuck it to because you seem like you've got some pretty solid boundaries?
Yeah, I've got some good fuck it genes. What is one tradition that I could easily say fuck it to? So like all the different like school parties and the mall
Oh my
parties
God, yes.
and the visiting Santa and the going to sit on Santa's lap, like all the extra stuff that's like a little too like, I don't know, where they bring home like plastic freaking toys and there's like just all those like extra parties that are like that stuff
Yeah.
is like, nope, no room for that on the calendar for me. And then also I say no to having my kids sit on Santa's lap because the first like couple of years, I want to say it's 2 years, I thought it was hilarious that my kids were like terrified with like sitting on this man with this fake beard. And then I was like, wait a minute, is this like a little traumatic? And so I started to like really overthink having them sit on some like strange dude's lap.
Yeah.
And who like gets credit for the good present. Back then he did. And so I've stopped doing that too. So I don't bring my kids to see Santa unless they like, I guess maybe they ask for it. And then of course I would take them. But yeah, so no sitting on Santa's lap. I just think I like really broke it down and I started to like see all these pictures coming across social media. I'm like, oh my God, these kids look like really, really scared. Not just like unsure, just like absolutely terrified out of their minds. And so I said, fuck it to that.
Yeah, I never really did that either. And I'm like racking my brain trying to remember why. I think it might have just been an overwhelm decision because I was so overwhelmed all the time at that point in my motherhood. And so, yeah, now I take my kids to this Christmas village that's around here. They do this, it's this miles long lights display in a campground. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And so in their village section, depending on what night you go, Santa's usually there. And my kids wanted to go and take a picture with Santa. So like, yeah, sure. Cheers. Let's do it. But I never took them to the mall to wait in line and do that whole, Ralphie from Christmas Story thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you again so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.